Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're still fit for the last part of the program. I'm gonna do a presentation on what we call the EFTA advisory bodies, which is not like a formal term; it's a generic term that encompasses a bit all the bodies, committees that we have in the EFTA institutional setup in connection with the EEA agreement. And I'm gonna present actually the parliamentary scrutiny, the role of the social partners, and also the scrutiny at the local and regional level. At the Secretary, we are two colleagues dealing with these committees. My other colleague is at the back of the room. It's Peter Gunnarsson, and he's in charge of the Consultative Committee, and he provides support also for the local and regional forum. And I am dealing with the EFTA Parliamentary Committee and the joint body under the EEA agreement. So today the presentation will be structured quite simply. First, a little introduction. I already started about what are the EFTA advisory bodies, and then how the scrutiny of these three bodies is done by these different committees. And then, as you are used at the end of the day, you will have the possibility to ask questions if you have any. So here you have a chart of the EFTA organization, association, institutional structure. The EFTA Council, I don't know if you saw it already today in a previous presentation, is actually the body of EFTA at four, the four member states together. The ministers have created bodies or committees or to assist them in their work. And it dates back already in the 60s, 70s. They actually created a parliamentary committee and a consultative committee. The parliamentary committee is a forum for parliamentarians. So each parliament in the EFTA states have a delegation that they send to EFTA and to create this parliamentary committee. And the same goes for the EFTA Consultative Committee that gathers representatives of trade unions, business associations, and employers' organizations. And if you look at the rules of procedures of this committee, their mandate, what's their role? It's very broadly defined. They actually have the mandate to provide advice to member states on all issues of relevance to the organization. And you have learned that EFTA is actually responsible for the three EFTA states, the relation with the EU, the implementation of the EEA agreement. This is the topic of today. And the second point is the EFTA at four, it's negotiating trade agreements outside the European Union. So today, actually, my presentation is focusing on point one of this little slide. This you already probably saw this morning, probably by Hege at least, if not Marit as well. It's this two-pillar structure of the EEA agreement. On the left-hand side, you have the EFTA pillar. On the right-hand side, you have the EU pillar. And the EEA agreement creates joint bodies to implement, develop the EEA agreement. So most of your presentation today were focused on the upper side of the graph, so the EEA Council for the ministers, the EEA Joint Committee at ambassadorial level, and my presentation is actually focusing rather on the left part, the lower part of the slide. So the agreement creates a joint parliamentary committee and a joint consultative committee. On top of this, and I have added it a bit separately, is this cooperation between the EFTA Forum and the Committee of the Region, which is not formalized properly in the EEA agreement because the Committee of the Region was created after the entry into force of the EEA agreement. So if we look now at actually my job, the parliamentary scrutiny, the EEA Joint Parliamentary Committee. So the Article 95 of the EEA agreement creates a joint parliamentary committee that is composed of equal members of the European Parliament and of the Parliamentary Committee, 12 members from the European Parliament, 12 members from the EEA EFTA states. This committee meets twice a year, once in an EFTA country and once at the seat of the European Parliament in Strasbourg. even though with the pandemic it's a bit debatable, it was a lot online. The mandate is to scrutinize the good functioning of the EEA agreement. How do they do that? Actually, they invite the representative of the EEA Council, of the EEA Joint Committee at their meeting, and these executive representative report to the parliamentarians on what has happened, how has the agreement developed, and they can ask questions and they can take positions on different specific topics. The committee also monitors EU legislative developments that may have an impact on the EEA agreement, and they do that by first discussing what they want to have on the agenda, but they also invite, or at least they try to do so, rapporteurs and shadow rapporteurs of different political groups in the European Parliament who are in charge of negotiating a specific legislative file for the European Parliament. And in that, on that occasion, they can actually share concerns or ideas to their counterparts in the European Parliament. And these rapporteurs and shadow rapporteurs are not specifically members of the delegation of the EU delegation, the EU side of the EU Joint Parliamentary Committee. And there I have mentioned something is that actually when you say meeting with the European Parliament, the Parliament also is organizing delegation. They have a delegation for relation with EFTA countries and the EEA. You see there a picture. The chair is Mr. Andreas Schwab. He's German from the EPP group and member of the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee, which is very relevant for the legislation that is then incorporated into the EEA agreement. It's not the only committee, but still it's a relevant committee. You had just before me the good presentation of Toure, who has been working on this EEA-EFTA comment for many years and know it inside out. And actually these comments, and he mentioned also my name before, are extremely also useful for the parliamentarians, because actually with these documents, the parliamentarians know what is the EFTA or EEA-EFTA position on specific legislative file. So sometimes we do invite representatives of the Secretariat to brief the committee or either on only the EFTA side or together with the European Parliament. And actually they can use, it's very useful for them to say, this is what EEA-EFTA states do think on this specific proposal. And then they can also hand it over sometimes, these comments, if they are meeting with a rapporteur on a specific topic that is being negotiated by the European Parliament. You know, they say, we have actually a position, we have a comment, and they can hand it over on top. So they do monitor these legislative developments. If you look at the past meetings that we had, they were very much focused on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the internal market, or the EEA in that case. You have heard that during the pandemic, you know, there were like measures taken at the border and so on and so forth, with like export restrictions for vaccines or things like this. So or like suspension of the free movement of persons. So this was a very big topic during the pandemic. And of course, looking at the developments on the EU side, they have discussed a lot the green and digital transition. They have discussed the European carbon border adjustment, the social dimension of the Green Deal, artificial intelligence, you know, all these core internal market issues that are relevant for the EEA that may be incorporated into the EEA agreement. Formally, the committee can express its view in form of resolution and reports. It happens at least once a year when they adopt a resolution on the annual report on the functioning of the EEA agreement. For this year, the first meeting in 2022 is scheduled to take place from 23rd to 25th of May in Oslo in Norway. The first meeting will take place in an EEA-EFTA state. The second one is supposed to be during around mid-October in Strasbourg. Then we move on to the committee of my colleague Pieter, which is the EEA Consultative Committee. So the overall functioning is similar to the Parliamentary Committee. The difference is that they meet. This committee meets once a year, so it's the EFTA Consultative Committee on the EFTA side, meeting with the representative of the European Economic and Social Committee. The role is the same, to scrutinize the development. The composition of the committee, its functioning is described in the Article 96 of the agreement, and it also expresses its view in form of report and resolution. The last meeting was last December, mid-December. They adopted two resolution and reports, one on the action plan of the European Pillar of Social Rights, one on the effective minimum taxation. And the next meeting is, or the 2022 meeting is supposed to take place in May, 11th of May in Bergen in Norway. And there they are also expecting to adopt resolution, one on the social aspect of the Fit for 55 package, and one on the role of the artificial intelligence in the workplace. So there you also have a picture of the meeting at the European Economic and Social Committee in 2019. We have a lot of pictures of 2019 that are nicer than just the faces on the screen. And we are celebrating at the time the 25th anniversary of the agreement. And then we get to the last body of this EFTA Forum for Local and Regional Authorities. So it has been mentioned before, it's an informal body. It has been established later in 2009 only by the EFTA states, by the Standing Committee of the EFTA states. The ambition is to involve local and regional elected representatives on EEA matters. They usually meet once a year. Since it's not enshrined in the EEA agreement, they have established informal links with the Committee of the Region. And also they adopt opinions, and these opinions are addressed not to the joint body, the EEA Council or the EEA Joint Committee, but to the EFTA pillar, so to the Standing Committee, to the ambassador of the EFTA states. And there you actually have the online meeting picture of these delegates at a meeting that took place early last year. So I'm already reaching the end of my presentation, just to say that these bodies are important in the EFTA, at EFTA or in the EFTA institutional structure, because they are a link, a channel to communicate with the politics, with the economics and the social and civil society in the EFTA states. They bring EFTA matters closer to the citizen, and ultimately they ensure the democratic accountability and legitimacy of the EEA agreement, even though it's not the only way of having this democratic accountability. For example, in the Norwegian Parliament, you have the European Consultative Committee. So the Norwegian Parliament, they have a committee where they meet with the Foreign Affairs Minister on a regular basis once a month to discuss also EEA affairs. But I mean, together at three, this is how they do that and how they communicate and how they scrutinize. And in Iceland would be the Foreign Affairs Committee, also discussing regularly EFTA affairs. So I will stop here, and also happy to take a few questions if you have any. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Christophe. Questions from the audience? Minds of the parties?
I was clear enough. August.
Yes.
Hello, my name is August from Norway. I was wondering is the composition of the delegations from the different countries? How are they decided? Are they normally proportional? And has there been any sort of changes in the interests of the parliamentarians over the last few years?
Yeah, thank you. So according to the rules of procedures, it's 12 members from the EFTA side. So I think it's 6 members from Norway, 4 members from Iceland and 2 members from Liechtenstein. And this was agreed upon between them, to have that it represents also the proportionally the population of the countries. I don't know if it replies to then the which delegate they send, they have their own organization, their own rules of procedure in the parliament, where they decide to organize themselves. And the same on the EU side. On the EP side, they also decide which parties are represented. And the last question on the interest of the different of the parliamentarians. I would say that there has been at least a shift, not especially in terms of topic, but a bit related to also what Toure was saying in Brussels, how to have influence, how to be influential. And I think there has been discussions on how can we best influence, and there has been the requests to carefully, select the topics to be put on the agenda and carefully or invest a lot to have the rapporteurs and the shadow rapporteurs coming in these meetings to actually talk to the right people, and to be visible towards like the key players in the EU decision-making process. It's about internal market, and then there was also an ambition and a strategy that was put in place at the last elections of the European Parliament to actually also kind of, Toure said we are not lobbyists, but there are like moments where maybe we have to be. And there were a lot of contacts taken with the political groups of the European Parliament, with the administration at a high level to actually also advocate saying, in this delegation responsible for EFTA and the EA, we need people who are like representing in the core committees responsible for the internal market. And so like it can be IMCO, internal market and consumer affairs protection, it can be ITRE for research, it can be ENVI for the environmental aspect. And actually there has been a lot of that has been done by the Secretariat as well to raise the awareness about the importance of this cooperation. And so basically I would say rather than in terms of topic, it was rather like a more strategic approach saying we have to talk to the right persons, as Toure was saying before. So even the parliamentarians have thought about it. And then in terms of topics, politics is about like, should be to govern well, you should plan ahead. But there are a lot, parliamentarians, they have a lot to do at home as well. So they are reading the news and so on. And what is political now is what they want to discuss at the next meeting, So the big political realities in the EU are those that are the EFTA state or EFTA parliamentarians are interested in. And of course, when you talk about like the big projects such as green transition, digital transition, that they are following closely because they know that ultimately, it will be incorporated into the EA agreement for most of them. I hope it replies somehow.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Christophe,